while Josh Hawley may claim not to be taking the January 6th investigation seriously, it increasingly looks like the Justice Department is taking it very seriously. Last night we brought you the late-breaking news from the Washington Post, now confirmed by NBC News, that the Justice Department is investigating Donald Trump's actions as part of its January 6th criminal probe. Today, ABC News and CNN are both reporting that the former top aide to Trump's chief of staff, who gave blockbuster public testimony to the January 6th committee, Cassidy Hutchinson, is cooperating with federal prosecutors. That is on top of federal grand jury testimony we just learned about by two former top aides to Mike Pence. And we also learned today that the Justice Department has obtained a new search warrant for the phone of Trump lawyer John Eastman, a key figure in the plot to overturn the election. Federal agents seized the phone last month. Now they've started to go through its contents, which is just the latest indication that Eastman and Trump's other outside lawyers who crafted the various schemes to overturn the election are central to the Justice Department's investigation. According to the reporting about the DOJ's interest in Trump's actions, a lot of what prosecutors are asking about are Trump's interactions with and instructions to those lawyers. That includes John Eastman, who, according to testimony to the January 6th committee, admitted that his legal theories aimed at keeping Trump in power would be rejected 9-0 by even Trump's Supreme Court, and Jeffrey Clark, who tried to implement his own little mini coup at the Justice Department, and Diet Dr. Pepper connoisseur Sidney Powell, who claimed the election was stolen by China, or maybe by the deceased dictator of Venezuela, and at one point tried to get Trump's Defense Department to launch a secret mission to seize computer servers in Germany. And, of course, Rudy Giuliani, whose election-related antics have gotten his law license suspended in New York and D.C., and whose electronics have already been seized in a separate federal investigation. Today, our friend Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney, writes that among all the strands the Justice Department is investigating around January the 6th, quote, there is one thread Attorney General Merrick Garland and team should prioritize: bad lawyers. These inept and unscrupulous advisors may help lead investigators to those most culpable for the big lie and January 6th insurrection. Joining us now is Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney and current co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast. Joyce, thanks for being here tonight. Let's start with what you were writing about.
Thanks for having me.
MSNBC.com. Why are these bad lawyers, as you call them, so key to the Justice Department's January 6th investigation?
Well, when DOJ commences an investigation, it's looking at conduct. It doesn't target people. And the problem with this investigation, I think this is a gross understatement, but this is such a complicated situation. DOJ has already charged hundreds of people, and that's before they've even gotten to the meat of January 6th. So if you're thinking about conduct, one of the common threads that runs through all of these potential conspiracies, whether it's the fake electors, the pressure campaign on Mike Pence, or the day of the insurrection itself, there are bad lawyers present at every stage. And focusing on that part of the conduct, prosecuting them, potentially turning them into cooperators, could provide a series of witnesses who had direct contact with those most culpable, those at the White House, even the former president himself, and could be a direct line in for Merrick Garland. Because what you want to do here, if you're DOJ, is you don't want to stop at the mid-level of responsibility. You ultimately want to hold those who are most accountable for what the country has been put through. You want to hold those folks accountable.
So, Joyce, are there unique challenges posed by the fact that these key players are lawyers? Could that make it particularly hard for the Justice Department to investigate them because they could claim some kind of attorney-client privilege?
There are hoops that you have to jump through. For instance, you talked about recently obtaining permission to go into John Eastman's phone and to take a look at what's inside of that. That means DOJ will have to use what's called a clean team or a taint team, a group of prosecutors who won't be involved in prosecuting any substantive cases, but who will look at that information, who will work with either a special master or a judge to make sure that the folks who are using that information as evidence in a case don't improperly see anything that should be cloaked in privilege.
And Joyce, help us understand this latest reporting about the Justice Department investigating Donald Trump's actions. That is not the same thing as criminally investigating Donald Trump himself, is it? Explain the distinction, please.
This is a very fine line that I think even as prosecutors, we sometimes are maybe not as precise when we explain this as we should be. DOJ looks at conduct. It investigates potential crimes. Something that you never do as a prosecutor is say, for instance, let's go get Donald Trump, right? We are not a country that believes in the lock 'em up approach to criminal prosecutions. We're focused on crimes. And as DOJ investigates crimes, the people that you might want to talk to during an investigation tend to fall into three groups. There are witnesses, people who have information to you that or information that's helpful to you in uncovering the truth. There are subjects. Those are people whose conduct falls loosely within the parameters of the crime that you're investigating. They may be actually criminally responsible for the conduct. You don't know for certain. That's why you're investigating. And then there are targets. Those are people who you have evidence against and who you intend as a prosecutor to bring charges against. So you're looking at all of that as a prosecutor, investigating the conduct to determine who's responsible and who should be charged.
We will have to leave it there. Former U.S. Attorney Joyce Vance, thank you as always for your time. Thank you for explaining all of that for us.
Good to see you.